But yes, they were, and it's just a really different world. But it's really amazing that's how it was. And so, as I think about doing another Christmas sermon on the Christmas story, and I think just about that fact alone, it's just, I'm like, wow, 12 to 15 years of age, here she is thrown into a cultural world where there's so many different rules and expectations and so many different the morals of the time. Everything's just so different, so even restricting and constraining when we think about it in terms of our day today. So what I would just like to start out with is if you ladies would do something for me, because I thought this would be neat just to ask 12 to 15-year-olds, okay? First of all, just tell us your name, and then if there's a favorite part of the Christmas story that stands out to you, and what that is. Okay. Yeah, okay, so, all right, no pressure, no pressure at all. And yes, you're doing great, and this is totally impromptu, and I had no idea I'd get 3 out of 36, but I'm happy. So you've already succeeded. You came up here, so you've made me happy. And I have been Merry Christmased by you, so thank you. But so tell us your name, and then just a favorite part of the Christmas story. It could be any part, just any part that you think about, and it kind of stands out to you. Does that sound good? Fair enough? Easy enough? Okay. So we're going to have a shuffling. Good. Nice. I like that. That's very suave, very smooth. Very well done. Very well done. And you are the brave one. You know what? Give her the candy bar. Give her the candy bar. Yeah, she's going to be the one that divides that. Okay? So your name and then your favorite part of the Christmas story.
I'm Amelia.
Okay, turn us up a little bit more. Make sure we're on and ready to go so they can hear everybody. Okay.
My name is Amelia, and
favorite part of the Christmas story?
My favorite part of the Christmas story is when they are traveling and when they arrive at the inn and they have to give birth to Jesus, and nobody cared, and then they just proved that everybody would love him and that he would make a sacrifice that he was the only one brave enough to make.
Awesome. That's awesome. Isn't that great? Yes. Very good. Very good. I love that. And you know what's really neat, Amelia, is that's the theme of our story today. That's one of the themes. So good job. Good job. Harlan, give her another candy bar. So, all right. Your name and then a favorite part of the Christmas story. Oh, it's okay. Just tell us your name. You got a name, right? All right.
My name is Chloe Brown, and I don't have one.
Okay, that's fine, Chloe. Good. You're going to have a favorite Christmas story part after the message today, okay? So, yeah.
My name's Addie, and I don't have a favorite part.
That's okay. Can we give them a hand? Yes. Good. You're not done. You're not done. Okay, so let's start. We're going to go down through again. You're doing great. Okay, so I'm curious to know, in one word, what a 12 to 15-year-old lady in our time, okay, in 2019, in one word, what do you think it would be like to be pregnant? In one word, what do you think that would be like? Just one word.
Unwanted.
Okay, unwanted, very good. Okay.
Scary.
Scary, okay. What do you think?
Embarrassing.
Okay, embarrassing. Okay, very good. Thank you. Hold on, one more round here. One more round. Okay. Could you do me a favor, and if they put the scripture slides up on the screen for you right back there, if you could bring up my scripture slide, it'd be like slide number 3 or 2, where we actually have the next slide. Next slide. Okay, there we go. So we're going to read Luke 2, 1 through 7, and I have a feeling that you all are going to be great readers of the text this morning, okay? I know you're going to do a great job for me. And so if you could just each take a verse. Can you see it okay? Back in the back here? Okay, yeah, look off either one is fine. So if you would be so kind, be so kind and read one verse each, and we'll go through. There's 7 verses, so you'll each get at least 2 verses, and maybe I'll read the last verse to make it even, okay? All right, so just read nice and loud the verse for me. Okay, and so whoever's got the mic at the moment, that's a pretty good indicator that you should go first. So, yeah, so you all are doing so great. You're doing so great. So, nice and loud, right into the mic. Luke chapter 2, verses 1 through 7, verse 1, and it reads. Yes, okay. Hand the mic down to the in the row, maybe. Okay, let's try there. Okay, she's thrilled. Yes. Okay, Luke chapter 2, verses 1 through 7. And verse 1 reads. Yes.
In those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree that the census should be taken of the entire Roman world.
Yes. Applause. Yes. Okay, and so the next verse, there's a word, Quirinius. I'll just say it for you, Quirinius, so you can skip it when we get there, okay? Verse 2.
This was the first census that took place while Quirinius was governor of Syria.
Threw it in anyway. Great job. Yes. Awesome. Verse 3.
And everyone went to their own town to register.
I knew it. I knew they could do this. Yes, I knew it. Okay, next slide. Verse 4, and just start over and come down again.
So Joseph also went up from the town of Nazareth in Galilee.
Yep.
To Judah, to Bethlehem, the town of David, because he belonged to the house and line of David.
Great. Love it. Yes. Verse 5.
He went there to register with Mary, who was pledged to be married to him and was expecting a child.
Okay. Very good. Verse 6.
While they were there, the time came for the baby to be born.
And verse 7. And she gave birth to her firstborn, a son. She wrapped him in clothes and placed him in a manger because there was no guest room available for them. Isn't that awesome? What a great Christmas passage. High five it. Good job. I loved it. Okay. Thank you. You've served well this morning. Just feel free to have a seat, okay? Hey, let's give them a hand. They did great. Yeah. Very, very proud of them. Takes a lot of courage. And be sure and give them a hug and tell them how great they did at the end of this thing today, okay? And they will appreciate it. But how about that? How about that? Christmas, an unexpected Christmas. And what an incredible story. And I don't know about you, but when I read that story and hear that story one more time, and then I think about all the things I love about Christmas. I think about the songs of Christmas, and we sang some of them this morning, and there's just this deep theology that's written in the Christmas songs of the past. And these writers of these songs were not just songwriters, they were theologians. And man, they could really express the deeper truths of Christmas. And so I think how I love that. I love the story of Christmas that we just read. I love the Christmas lights and pageantry of Christmas. I love the cards of Christmas. You ever just get a card and the scene on the card, on the front of the card is just so captivating. You just are mesmerized. It's like, does a place that beautiful really exist somewhere? I mean, it's just like amazing how it captures our imagination. I love the family visits of Christmas. I love the babies and toddlers at church at Christmas time. I love the sweets of Christmas. All the, like I was saying last week, the peanut butter things and the fudge and the cookies and the things some of you have blessed me with even this past week. It's awesome. And by the way, I was down to my 3rd gallon of milk, and I went to the grocery store and bought 2 more. So I'm good. So God has really been good that way. So we're thankful for that. So I love all these things about Christmas. What do you love about Christmas? Well, I think probably what I love most about Christmas is that it creates a sense of longing and a sense of expectation that somehow all the pageantry and somehow all the gifts and all the family gatherings and all the Christmas cards and all the Christmas carols and the little toddlers in their Christmas attire and the dresses and things and the guys in their little bow ties and things. Somehow the services, the lights, the tree, like I said, the songs, the stories of Christmas, somehow it creates longing. It creates a hope that there is love, a perfect love. It creates hope and a longing that there is meaning in life. That somehow all of the elements of Christmas are pointers that are meant to point us in the direction of our longings and the hope that they can be fulfilled someday, that all things would be as they should be. I was praying this week with a lady who can't come to church anymore, and she's been home for quite a while, and she's been bedfast, and it's been a very, very difficult road. And at the end of that brief visit, I was praying a prayer, and this is having studied all week on Christmas and what I was going to talk to you about today. One of the things, the phrases, and I'm not really sure where it came from, just as I was trying to pray a closing prayer with her, one of the things that came out in that closing prayer was, Father, we're thankful for Christmas because you're on the move. God is on the move. And it just kind of caught me. It's like, that's it. That's what I want to say Sunday. That you are on the move. God is on the move. We're not sure where it's all going to go. Those Mary and Joe and the people involved, the shepherds and the wise men and the Simeon and Anna and Elizabeth and so many people in the Christmas story. They weren't altogether sure on the details. They weren't sure how it all was going to resolve and how it was all going to come together. But one thing for sure, and the world seemed to stand up and take notice, God was on the move. God's up to something. He's up to something in the Christmas story. I think it was later on that day I was looking through some quotes, and I follow Ann Voskamp on Instagram, and she had this quote on her Instagram for that day, and she says, "Real joy is not found in having the best of everything, but in trusting that God is making the best of everything." When you're growing up, we think we want the best of everything, and it's good, isn't it, to get some really neat gifts, quality gifts. And so we think that joy is found in having the best of everything, but Voskamp suggests really joy is found in trusting that God is making the best of everything. And that's my grown-up longing. Yeah, maybe one time to have the best of everything, but now it's just, God, will you make the best of everything? Will you take the diagnosis of people I love and care about whose time is limited on this planet, people who can't come to church because they're home, people that have to make that phone call to the church and call the pastor, and they're at the point in their marriage where it's going to fall apart, and usually the church and the pastor is the last resort in those situations, so usually they're really tough cases. To know that somehow in all of the relational upheaval and the physical pain and the relational things and the physical limitations, that somehow, God, if you could just let us know you're up to something. Somehow. That's my Christmas longing. That's my Christmas hope. God, you got to be up to something in the details. And when I think about the Christmas story, and I think about the longing that it creates, and Luke 2, the passage that the lady so capably helped me read this morning, that when we look at that story, and then even further what Luke has to say about the story of Christmas, we understand that he's probably addressing, and he is addressing, some of the deepest longings of our heart. It's not just that Luke is a historian, and he is. Luke is a record keeper, and he is. Luke is a researcher, and he is. And when we read that story, we can see verified. I mean, he's very clear. He's very articulate. He names Roman Caesars, and he names places that are verified, and Caesars that are verified. And he makes a note of a historical census that actually happened, and that's been verified in extra biblical places. Easy enough. I mean, this has all been verified. And so we see Luke is a historian, and he's recording the facts of history such that he talks about a real story. This is a real story. The Christmas story is a real story. It's not just in a galaxy a long time ago, far, far away. It's not just a time when we approach Narnia through the wardrobe. It's not just something that's Middle Earth, to use an idea from Tolkien's works. No. It's history. It's real people, real towns, a real census. Real geographical places are referenced. Consistent childbirth explanations of swaddling clothes, consistent with the childbirth methods and postnatal care of the times. All hangs together, you see. And so Luke is a historian, and he is a record keeper, and he is a researcher, and he does that in an excellent way. In fact, in the very beginning of Luke 1:1 we read, many have undertaken to record the story of stories, the story of Christmas. Many. How many's many? I don't know, but it's a lot. And in a time when there were no printing presses and so on and so forth, you would hire people to do these research projects. If you happened to be wealthy and had a lot of money, you would hire these people to do research projects, to write stories about you or your family or people of interest. You would proofread it, and you would sign off on it, and they would publish it, and you were one of the fortunate ones. Well, Luke's story, his patron, the person Theophilus who has commissioned Luke to write the story of stories. To somehow you take all these many accounts, and you take all these suggestions and all these details and all this data, and you pull it together, Luke. Tell us the story straight. Give it to us as it should be given. A factual story. You see, so Luke, I see in this passage, he addresses our longings. First of all, he tells us it's a true story. And we all long for the story to be true, don't we? That there is a truth on which my life can be built. There is a truth on which my worldview can be centered. There is a truth on which I can face the uncertainties of tomorrow, the difficult things, especially that we feel so keen to experience this time of the year, so delicate, so powerfully moved in this time of the year by things that, even many of the negative things that happen in our life. Luke's saying, I got your story, and it's a true story. But not only is Luke an historian who addresses some of the deepest longings of our heart to know truth, but he is also a teacher. He wants to teach you something through the Christmas story. He is not only a record keeper, he is a teacher. And he says, what I want you to see is that, yes, there is no room in the inn. And one of our readers, in answering the question, indicated that part of the story to us. Yes, there was no room in the inn. There was only room in the manger. There's no room in the inn. You see, the inn is where everybody wants to be. It's where everybody wants to be. You've got your comforts in the inn. You've got your amenities. The bathroom's usually a little closer. There's bottled waters in the little portable, smaller fridge, right? You ever go to a hotel and spend the night? Okay, you've got your amenities. The ice machine's not too far away, right? You've got your amenities. You have your recognition. You have your prestige. You have your privilege, right? Life in the inn. Everybody wants in the inn. And the inn there was no room in the inn because everybody wanted in the inn. But in the Christmas story, there's always room in the manger. There's always room. And see, what Luke is trying to show you from the very beginning is not that the story is just true. It addresses our deepest sense of longing to know what's true and build our life on the truth. But Luke is a teacher, and he wants you to see that this little boy from Bethlehem who was laid in a manger, he was laid in a manger where nobody else wanted to be. He was laid in a manger, and a 12 to 15-year-old girl, let's say 12, 13, 14-year-old girl with her back pressed against the stable wall, trying to give birth in straw to the Son of God. He's trying to help you to see that when Jesus started His life in the manger, He never left it. That little narrative clue identifies the life that He lived. He was always the servant. He came to serve. He came to find that low, humble point of entry in our world, and He stayed there. He never left it. You see, the inn is always crowded, but the manger always has plenty of room because nobody wants to be there. The manger of service, the manger of turning your back on maybe what you think the world expects from you. It's choosing rather to serve and to fulfill a calling and a purpose. And I think what Luke shows you against the backdrop of this imperial regime of Rome and the power and control of Rome, he shows you that in the Christmas story he nests it with that kind of a backdrop in such a way to show you that you're born into a kingdom. You're born into somebody's kingdom. It may be Caesar's, or it may be this little baby boy from Bethlehem, but you're born into a kingdom. And what he wants to show you is that who your true king is and what your true king has done. He chose the manger. He could have been born on some ritzy boulevard in downtown Rome. He could have been born with nice, prestigious social status clothing and parents who had incredible educations and pedigree. But he came to a couple of teenagers. And he was born in a stable. He never left it. He lived his life. He lived a manger kind of life. And what Luke is trying to show you is that everybody wants to be in the inn. Nobody wants to be in the manger because there's no recognition there. There's no fresh towels there, right? There's no soups and soaps and shampoos and bottled waters, and there's no extra blankets to stave off the edge of a Bethlehem chill. There's no one to attend to your needs and your comforts in the manger. And they laid that little baby boy in the manger, and he never got out of it. For throughout Luke's gospel, He's serving. He's serving. He's serving. And in a way, the manger is where God does something special. We know He's up to something. And we start realizing in the manger of life that Van Voskamp has it right, that real joy is not found in having the best of everything, but in trusting that God is making the best of everything, even as I serve in my manger place. God is doing something. And whatever His purposes are in my life right now, and I may not understand it fully, but He's up to something. He's doing something. And He shows up in manger places, and He shows us how to live life in the manger. You know, Luke 2 addresses, like I said, some of our deepest longings, and I think that's probably our deepest longings, to serve and know that our life matters. That not only are we people who have a story of truth to define our life, but now we have a story that addresses our deepest core needs, and we see that serving radically in the world is a longing that we have, that our life means something. But Luke addresses so many other longings, and these are in your YouVersion notes. As we look at the story of Luke, even Matthew and other places talk about the Christmas story. There's something about my deepest longings find rest in the Christmas story. That even when powerful governments issue decrees, that God uses those political decisions to position us right where we need to be personally in our life at that moment. That 1,500 miles from Bethlehem, there's a Caesar who says, okay, boys, it's time for a census. And he decrees this, and this gets carried out by administrators throughout the empire. And so these couple of teenagers, poverty-stricken, at the most inopportune time of their life, have to make a journey. And they end up being in a little town called Bethlehem, right like the prophet said that they would be when the baby Jesus would come into the world. And so Luke addresses that longing, that even when in a world where there's big, powerful governments and there's decrees that are issued and there's so many decisions that are made, and somehow where do I find life in all of that? And what happens to my life? And am I just something that gets caught up in the wheels of political processes that just grind away? And that somehow Luke says that even in those big, mega decisions, that God works even the details of those crazy decisions. And He puts us right where we need to be. That's Christmas addresses some of our deepest longings, and that's one of my deepest longings, is to know that God, no matter where the boys are stationed in the army, no matter what happens in political scene or in the state scene or even local scene, no matter what happens, that you are in the details, and that I know I can trust you to position people where they need to be. You know, I think Luke 2 addresses more longings. I think it addresses the fact that an unmarried teen mother can give birth to a child, and God still can do something special through that baby's life. You see, I think there's a longing in all of us that would be true. There's a longing that status and clout and prestige are not requirements in order to have a place at the King's table. That humble beginnings don't preclude anyone from having a place in the story. That a manger birth is not something to be excluded. That God uses people from humble beginnings to do great things. I think Luke 2 in the Christmas story addresses the longing that there is someone to share my life with and share the longing with. The longing that God is up to something, He's on the move, to stay faithful to that person, even when criticized by the world. I think Joseph could tell us all about that. The longing that in a world where everything is questioned and challenged, that Luke has given me a reliable story of truth that I can build my life and hope on. That all the people I love and care about, whose lives are sometimes cut short, that all of them have restored back to them someday what the King Herods have taken from them. Of course, we know King Herod had all the babies in Bethlehem, 2 years of age and younger, slaughtered. And that doesn't usually make it in our Christmas stories and our pageants. But see, Christmas even addresses that. Somehow in this baby boy in a manger, that all that the King Herods have done in the world and what they have stolen from us, through this baby boy in the manger, get restored. And there's hope. Luke chapter 2 addresses some of our deepest longings. That the angels and messengers of God can sing over our life and call it good news. Good news for the world because we lived. And that whatever barrier stands between us and God can somehow be overcome by this little baby boy from Bethlehem, who had all the supernatural phenomena surrounding his beginning, to let us know He's the world's best hope. that somehow the story is going to resolve and God is up to something. You know, we take our longing, all these longings, we take them to so many different things. We take them to the arts, and we love the arts, don't we? We love the pageantry of Christmas and the cards of Christmas and the songs of Christmas and the sermons of Christmas and the passages of Christmas, gifts of Christmas, the decor of Christmas. We just take it to the arts and we enjoy it and we take it in and it means so much to us, but then there's still the sense of longing. Still, it's not all as it should be. And we take it to the arts and we take it to so many questions that we have. We take it to relationships. Maybe a person can help assuage the longing that I feel. You know, I think of a book written by Alison Trowbridge called 22. If you would just put her slide up on the screen for me. Trowbridge wrote letters to a friend who was basically growing up and attending college, and every letter was a letter that Trowbridge herself would have loved to have received when she was growing up and trying to figure out the longings of her heart. She had all these longings going on inside, and essentially, if you could sit down and write a letter, a series of letters to your 18 to 22-year-old self, what you would say to that person, basically that's how she wrote the book. They're all letters written to herself, if she could have written them to her, to herself at the time. These are things that she would have loved for somebody to spoken into her life. She hits you with a confession right out of the chute. And for as long as she can remember, she says that I had a deep-seated sense that one day I was going to arrive. That I would wake up one morning and stretch out my arms to the world and revel in a sense of a finished self. That here I am, polished, shined, ready for the world. And from a very young age, I had this unrelenting sense that I was moving toward a destination. I was becoming someone. I was becoming a finished me, and one day I was going to get there. And one evening she was reading an Oswald Chambers devotional book. It was July the 28th was the entry of the book in the devotional book that's divided by the day, and it was the July 28th entry. And she said Chambers wrote these words: "We should never have the thought that our dreams of success are God's purposes for us. In fact, His purpose may be exactly the opposite. The question of whether or not we arrive at a particular goal is of little importance, and reaching it becomes merely an episode along the way." She says, she quotes Chambers and says this: "What we see as only the process of reaching a particular end, God sees as the goal itself." See, we're destination oriented, aren't we? We're goal oriented. That's how we make it in the world. But she's saying she got to a place in her freshman year of college when she realized that maybe what she saw as goals and destinations, that maybe the journey she was presently on in the now, in the moment, was God's destination. And what I saw as a journey, God saw as a destination, she says. I believe that who I was today didn't matter as much as who I would become if I reached my goals. But then I realized that God wasn't waiting for me to get somewhere. God saw the journey itself as the destination. You see, she began to realize that the real joy in life is not having the best of everything, but it's trusting that God is making the best of everything. See, she began to realize that. She had all of these dreams. She said, I wanted to meet the dream guy, design a storybook home, raise a perfect family. I wanted to look like a cover girl after all those pregnancies. I wanted to meet glamorous people. I wanted to attract millions of followers on social media. I wanted to change the world. I wanted the best of everything. She decided, after reading Chambers' journal entry, that what she really needed was a God who was working behind the scenes, who was making the best of everything, rather than her having the best of everything. And so she said, I decided to become more real and authentic. study what I loved in college, not what people expected me to study, to embrace the journey, to embrace what she saw and what God had her doing currently, more than just a destination at the end of the way. Instead of trying to be a superhero, I'd be a servant. I'd find a place in the manger, because there's lots of room in the manger. Everybody wants the comfort. Everybody wants the inn. Everybody wants the warm blankets. Everybody wants the bottled waters. Everybody wants the soaps and shampoos and the luxury. She says, there was a pivot and a life of service. A life of service began to shine to her. And she got away from the superhero model. And she was more in tune with that manger model of living life without having to have the applause, without having to have the recognition, without having to have the awards and acknowledgments and newspaper articles. She said, I found a place, in so many words, I found a place in a manger. Of course, she had these longings that I've talked about. Longings for love and longings for a true story and longings for all these things that the Christmas story addresses that I've shared with you. She had longings like every young woman would have. She says, I took this longing a lot of different places. I took it to a relationship. She tells about a whirlwind romance with DJ her senior year of college. DJ was a college dropout turned entrepreneur. He had a house that overlooked the ocean. He had a lot of admirers in social media, and he had a lot of fans. She was smitten. She had picnics between classes with DJ, bouquets of flowers and baskets and desserts at her apartment door. The best of everything, right? Things moved quickly the first few months. Oh, they were like every couple. They fought and they broke up for 5 days over Thanksgiving, but they work it out by Christmas, and things were going good then by New Year's. And so that's when DJ invited her to spend New Year's Eve with him and his friends on a private island in Nicaragua. The best of everything. That's what she wanted. You ever want the best of everything? We've been there, haven't we? The island was the kind of place where the Bachelor finales are filmed. I have no idea what that's like. I've never watched that. But I just take it as a pretty swanky place. Okay? The place they stayed had crystal chandeliers, long white couches, a shimmering pool, palm trees enshrouded the property. I'm using her words. A small gray dock stretched out toward the sunset where bright blue sea kissed the shore. Are you ready to go to Nicaragua? Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? A private chef from New Zealand dove for their dinner lobsters that evening. The best of everything. After getting caught in a tropical downpour, they're back at the villa and she's curled up in his arms and DJ whispers in her ear something about wedding dates. How does May sound? A year from May. No. This May. This May, Allison. How does this May sound? Well, May was the month she always wanted to get married in. But it all felt too rushed to her. He had already bought the URL with her first name and his last name. And in the digital world, I guess I understand that's kind of like a ring. Okay? A little bit like giving an engagement ring. A whole lot like that. It's what every girl would want, right? But she questioned, why don't I feel at peace? She went on a few more international trips with DJ. She wanted the best of everything. But she started feeling a disconnect. And later that year, DJ's business took a nosedive during a financial crisis, and all of his emotional energy and attention turned toward it. He still managed the public persona that drew the crowds, but she felt like a piece of a puzzle. She'd smile for the cameras with him, and she'd go home and cry herself to sleep because she just had longings she didn't know what to do with. And finally she admitted, this is not working. Yeah, I want the best of everything. But this is just not right. She said all the pictures of Nicaragua look great. Tropical island. But she said what you don't see is I forgot my passport, and that created problems. The first 3 days, there were biting gnats that had flared up on the island, and they left red welts all over our legs. The hot water went out completely, and they shivered through cold showers at night. A tropical storm hit the island. You never see this on Instagram, do you? A tropical storm hit the island, and they had no connection to the outside world, so they kind of felt cut off. The generator caught on fire. There was no backup power. She said it was all a picture of my relationship with DJ. All romance, but no true support. And the passing of time seemed to lead her, maybe, Allison, it's not about having the best of everything. Maybe it's about having a person who is helping make the best of everything in your life. Allison was 22, that's the title of the book, when she sat down on her bed with her roommates and decided it was time to end it. It was time to end the relationship. She listed her heartbreaks one by one and how she planned to stay with DJ despite all of them, and the tears finally subsided into a silent resolve. She sat there with her girlfriends and she came to this place. It's time to break up. She and her girlfriends sat in silence for a while. And finally, Allison Trowbridge told her girlfriends, I'm ready. Let's go. She messaged DJ. She said she was coming over. Her girlfriend stayed outside in the car and told her that she had 30 minutes, and if she wasn't back in 30 minutes, they're coming in. And she got it done. And she went out for sushi later with her girlfriends. And but she said, I ate in a daze. Allison writes to all the girls out there, and this is just one example of a young lady who took her longings to so many other places because she wanted the best of everything. But she eventually got to a place in her life where she realized, I want the God who makes the best of everything. That's what my longing is. That's what I really want. Nicaragua is great. Fresh lobster is great. Surprise day baskets and dinner baskets and trips. It's great. But I somehow I'm empty. My deepest longings for love and truth and belonging and purpose and service in the world is somehow affronted in all of it. And she writes to all the girls out there, our hearts can get so wound up in others that we forget to see ourselves as wholly separate people. You have your own story, she says. All you 12 to 15-year-old girls out there, you 12 to 18-year-old girls out there, you know, you must trust your gut and you mustn't play out the what-ifs. Don't imagine your wedding or your children or the next 15 years of Christmases and cookouts and vacations under a Sienna sunset. Stay in the now, in what you know to be true. And what you know to be true is that there's always room in the manger of service. And that is the place, the unexpected place where Christmas arrives, is when you're able to give your life in service. Yes to one another, yes to a spouse, yes to a family, yes to a church, yes to a community, but ultimately to a king, a baby king that came into the world in a manger, and he never left it. I mean that metaphorically. He never left it. He served and he served and he served for the rest of his life. He meets our deepest human longings for service that way, and he shows us the path to an unexpected Christmas. You know what Allison Trowbridge does today? She's resigned herself to living somewhat of a nomadic life, but she travels the world doing all that she can to end child and human slavery around the world. And she says, it's amazing the people I've met, the lives I've touched, the people in my network of relationships now. It's just phenomenal what God has done. Because you know why? You know why? She got to a place in her life where Voskamp, I think, wants all of us to get, where Luke wants all of us to get, where Jesus wants all of us to get. Is that it's not about getting the best of everything. It's about a God and trusting that God to make the best of everything, of all the pieces of my life. She said when she was about 12 years of age, we're getting close here, we're going to transition to communion. I'll wrap her story up and we'll wrap the message up. She said she was about 12 years of age, about the age of some of our ladies here on stage today. She went through an experience of isolation in her life. She said it was really tough, and she told God that if the day ever came that she was the outsider and she wasn't the outsider anymore, that she would carry an extra level of empathy and love for people on the outside of things. Because see, what I think is what Trowbridge thinks, and what so many people, you know it, and I know it, everybody knows it. There's people that feel like they're on the outside of something, that they're cut off from something, and they don't belong. It's like looking at a warm Christmas scene through the window of someone's home, and the family is celebrating with the gifts and the presents, and the ham is on the table, and the hot rolls, and the ham gravy. And the gifts are getting unwrapped, and the golden retriever with the red bow around its neck is chewing on its new rawhide on the sofa. And you're on the outside watching this. And it's like, oh, if I only belonged. Philosophers and theologians and authors and writers have written on that theme ad infinitum. We all feel that longing. I want to belong. Trowbridge felt it. People in the story of Christmas felt it. Mary and Joseph felt it. And you feel it if you're honest with your feelings this morning. And see, what I want to invite you to do, and thank you for those, Brandy and others who made the communion table so lovely each Christmas. We're so thankful. But see, I'm going to invite you to come forward in just a second and bring that longing to Christ. And say, God, I bring my longing to you. I'm not 22, maybe I'm 12, maybe I'm 62. But I've felt that longing. I've looked at those Christmas cards and there's been a little tickling of a desire and a longing. I've heard that Christmas carol and I've seen those, the pageants and the plays and I've experienced Christmases before. And I know what Pastor Joey's talking about. It stabs at joy. It's a sense of something's missing. I'm on the outside of something, I want it inside. Christmas is about getting on the inside. And there's a baby from Bethlehem who was on the outside of every inside-outside category there was. Parents, no pedigree. Wealth, no place to lay his head, he says. He's on the outside of every inside-outside category you can name. And it's almost as if he comes the way he does in a manger, living the manger life, because he knows nobody's going to get missed. Everybody will find a place in the story now. She's 12 years of age. She said, God, if you'll ever put me in a position to help people get moved from the outside to the inside, I'm game. I'll sign up for it. She said it was a bright spring afternoon during lunch hour. 12 years of age. God used this experience to really change her and begin a process of change. She had somehow managed to stand in the outer ring of the cluster of semi-cool girls at school. You know, the cluster, the cool girl cluster. There they are. And she somehow got on the edge of the cluster. She said, felt great. Felt great. Until the cluster decided to move. And Allie hesitated and she froze because she knew she wasn't in the inner ring, and that when she would start to move with the cool girl clique, that, oh man, this could really be bad. You know, when the herd leaves the bison, the lions come out, right? And she said suddenly a new friend from science class, her name was Stephanie, she turned around as the group was moving and she catches Allie's gaze and she says, hey Allie, come with us. And she motioned with her hand as they walked away. And something moved in the heart of a little girl at 12 years of age. She said, I'll stand with the outsider, the abused, the broken, the human slaves of the world, those who are longing inconsolably for home. I'll stand with them. And in Christmas, you have a baby boy who says, it's okay, there's no room in the inn. I'll go to the manger. There's lots of room in the manger. Lots of room. Do you need him? Do you need him? Do you have the inconsolable longing that you want to bring to some source, some person, some hope that's bigger than you and greater than you and better than you, that will outlive you? That's what Christmas offers. It's an unexpected Christmas this year. But if you just look a little closer, expect Christ. Expect Christ. You see, it's not about having all the best of everything. It's about trusting that there's one who is going to make the best of everything in my life. You know, I'm going to ask our servers, communion servers, to come up and just man the tables. The Lord's here today.